that letter together.
About 6.
Because when is the first? That's Tuesday. Tuesday? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I knew it was coming up very close, very quickly. But it just helps when we can manage it.
I'm expecting it. I know Jeff's coming. I just saw him.
Let me give you a call back.
Mr. O'Neill's coming because he if you want to, but
Well,
that should have been.
I thought you could be back.
Well, I said, I changed
My
it,
flight landed about
I changed it to.
11:30 last night in Raleigh.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Mr.
You
Chelsea.
just ready to go. All right, I'm going to call to order the June 26, 25 Water Board, Board of Directors meeting. And, if you have an agenda in front of you, which is not much of an agenda, but beginning of a motion to approve the agenda. All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, approval of the January 6, 2025 minutes, which I think was sent out. If there's any changes, say so now. If not, we'll take a motion to approve that.
So moved.
And do we have a second? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, financial update. Where's Beth?
In your package, you've got a combined report as of May 31st, compares fiscal years 24 and 25. We had water sales for District 1 of $646,805. For District 2, $1,007,282. In District 2, we got a $400,000 state grant for a water project. We've received $361,350 of that. The operating transfer in is related to debt service with the water districts. So that's just a bookkeeping journal entry. So our total revenues are $755,111 for District 1 and $1,616,807 for District 2. The expenses, I won't go through all the categories, but with debt service included, we have total expenses for District 1 of $550,000 and District 2, $1,030,374. We are on the positive side with our revenues over expenditures. Our beginning cash at July 1 is 1.6 for District 1 and 2.4 for District 2. And at the end of May, we've got 1.8 million for District 1 and little over 3 million for District 2.
So Beth, on the water sales for District 1, it seemed like it was quite a bit under budget. Was there something that caused that?
As far as under budget, kind of just comparing to what we had the year before, we undershot it the year before too. So as we're going into this upcoming year, we actually are probably going to be more on target with the water sales from a budgetary standpoint.
Okay, so we just overestimated what our sales would be.
Yes.
We didn't like lose a key customer or,
Nothing that I'm aware of.
okay.
I
That's
don't,
quite a
I
drop.
don't think we have any commercial customers on the county.
There are very, I think there's
Not
less,
heavy
they're not
users
heavy
anyway.
users.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how you somehow $124,000 went away, and I didn't
Did
know
you
if
say
there was a
District
reason.
1? Is that where you
District
live?
1.
Yeah, District 1. I mean, District 2 was, within $7,000 on $1 million, so that's pretty accurate.
Now granted, we still have 1 more month of collections.
Okay,
Because this is just through the end of May, so we still have June that we're going to.
So it may
So
close
that will be a
there.
little closer, yes.
it may close the gap.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because you can see our water purchase, which is all from the city, well, most of it from the city, is up quite a bit. But that had to do with their rate increase, so.
Yeah. I was just trying to I didn't know if there was some reason.
Oh, yeah. One more, so anyway, the bottom line is, we've got about $4.8 million in cash between the two,
Correct.
and we're committed to how much on the water line?
Was it around 800,000?
with that. I was thinking with,
Or I might just
that's
be thinking about ARPA.
the turnpike project, I've got 1.5.
Plus the
Sorry.
800 from ARPA.
That includes that.
Oh, that
That
includes,
is
750.
total.
750,000.
But the 800,000 from ARPA, it's sitting in here right now.
That
I believe
is-
I remember.
Oh,
That
that's-
that is in there.
Oh, it
that's
is
in-
sitting in
that
there
is
already.
sitting
I thought
in
we
there.
had to take it out.
So
because-
it's complicated, but yes, we did the initial transfer.
So they,
before
that two combined.
we were-
So the ARPA money's in
ARPA
this.
money's-
Yeah. But it's sitting in Water District Two's cash.
That's correct.
Okay. But it's still 4.8 million, and if our whole project was $1.5 million, we're still well within, it's not gonna destroy our cash for the water.
So what happens to the balance of that money if we only use,
The ARPA monies?
Yeah.
That's ours. Basically what happened is
so we can reallocate it within the water
you
district?
can. And the way that'll probably work is that because those were committed dollars from ARPA, those would be used first. So I would not anticipate there being any left unless the project was under budget. And then we would dip into the other funds that were allocated.
Yeah, that has to be used first.
Yeah.
And then, but there's nothing else you can use that money for,
Right.
so,
It just seemed to be nice to be in cash positive.
oh, yeah. Well, yeah, they're not hurt though. It's not hurt either way.
Let me ask this, well, I shouldn't assume anything. If our balances ever got to the point that they were high enough that we could begin to do work at our water treatment and water plant facilities, could these funds be used to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Any other discussion on the financials? So we'll move to the update on the water district. Is that pretty much what we've already covered? The item 4 on there, the update on the water district.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I mean, unless there's any updates you all want to hear about our water treatment plant, North Turnpike, we kind of know where that's at. And I don't have any other updates on water that I can think of.
I will say that I can't push Oak County no more for an answer on this water. They're just not-
Me either, I mean, their county manager won't even return it.
They're not.
I think we ought to just shift to Moore County and
See what they say.
present it, even if we just present it in an
Well,
email.
and it's a good time to start conversations with anybody, any other county, or I guess, or entity, because I had a visit with a rep from Senator Tillis's office last week, and she was telling me about earmarked funds that we could apply for next year, and she said, your water treatment is a perfect opportunity, especially if you get a regional approach to asking for money for that. And so, Joy and I met with her because it is like a grant process, but it is earmarked funds that Senator Tillis himself decides he's going to give to whoever. So, and they aren't guaranteed, of course, and it is a tough application process, she said, but this is exactly what we're looking for, that type of project. So, now's a good time to start talking to other people.
Well, and if nothing else, maybe we should go ahead and make the application just to get it.
Oh, we know, we definitely will, and it's not time to do the application yet, but we started the conversation, she said, but you'll have a stronger application if you have,
If
you
we
know,
have
a
other people.
multi-county approach.
Well, we'll get the
More people
EPA's
get
technical
interested.
assistance if we provide the other counties' information, so I think we need to
I don't understand Hope's reluctance. They
maybe.
stopped issuing permits because of this, because of their water issue. And the city of Fayetteville's already told them you're not getting any more from them. So, I don't know.
Talk to Moore County, they might get more interested.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, the city of Pinehurst is struggling as well.
I think they may be the entity that approached us 20 years ago or so. I think it may have been Pinehurst.
There was somebody in Moore County.
I talked to
don't
one-
remember, yeah.
I talked to one of their board members and he said, yeah, this is an issue. So,
Is it affecting their development up there? Is it slowing development?
Not currently, but I think they see it. They see it coming, especially as Southern Pines and Aberdeen continues to grow. They're gonna probably want to take more water for themselves. So I think this is potentially good for the county. I mean, this is a resource. And this will help us, I think, do a lot of other things.
Well, and there's some EDC things going on out there that we need, our treatment plant,
Right.
or our wastewater online. Otherwise, we're just losing it to the airport.
Wasn't,
Well, the big one for that, airport can't handle, not all of it. So,
So,
but we haven't heard any more from them,
right, so,
because I think they could flip a lot of that bill if,
yeah.
depends on how bad they need it.
But, yeah, and the point is, we know if that one was up and going, there's 2 projects right there that they're ready.
I bet you they'll give an answer fairly quickly if we just reach out to them and say, are you interested, yes or
Like Moore
no?
County.
Yeah, if you're
I'll
not,
be
fine,
glad to.
but
I believe
I didn't say no.
that's right.
I believe there was talks one time before with Moore County.
That's what Ed was talking about 20 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
They, I think they were trying to buy it, weren't they?
They came down here and made a presentation requesting it.
Yeah.
Well, I think they were trying to buy
I
it.
remember when that was going on. I don't know why I remember it, but I do. But,
Well, April makes a good point, though. If we get a EDC project that's water intensive, you know, this may really set us up for that.
Well, the 2 that we're talking about are the
Well, and you know, you have
sewer treatment. that are-
Right, you have 2 sides to your water, and both need an overhaul. There's the
Right.
treatment, and then there's the, I call drinking water, I guess you'd say,
Right.
so.
And I don't think
Whole
that
opportunities.
neither one of those places are, especially that sewer treatment, is to the point of having to tear it down.
That
and
one's
start
probably in
over.
better shape.
didn't we have somebody that was interested in that part of it?
Oh, at one time,
Oh.
or the sewer, well,
We
yeah,
did-
but they're
we
not
have
committed.
to.
Is that not panning out?
We don't know. That's up to them.
Mr. Ivy's talking about one, and I'm talking about another that is gonna pan out.
Yeah.
You're talking
But
one
we're
across
not,
the street.
we're not gonna be able to serve them,
Really?
because our plant doesn't work. So, you know, what we're saying is if that plant was up and running, why wouldn't they use us? We're right there.
But you're talking about across the street. Yeah, I'm talking about the one across the county line,
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
which is
That's what I was-
much bigger.
That's what I was talking about.
So,
But I'll tell you, 3 years from now, if we haven't made the right decisions today, there won't be anything there to use. So we gotta get started. It's just gonna take a long time.
it will.
Have we got any kind of a estimate on?
What-
Has there
what-
been any
and
kind of
that
numbers at all?
Yes, and Beth can help me because she was clearly over here before I was, but when I came in, so we have paid, I believe it's WK Dixon, an engineering firm. They have come out and they have done a study on the water plant, to tell us what needs to happen. An approximate cost, now that's been years, of what it would take to bring that plant online. So we have that piece done, we have it in a folder, and we got a grant to do that. For them to do that and pay them for that. And I spoke to the representative probably 3 weeks ago when I was going through EDC things, and that was an EDC project. So that piece is done. We know what needs to be done. Of course, the cost would change probably than when they completed it a couple of years ago. But that's a big hurdle, honestly, just knowing what has to be done to bring it online, because you'd have to pay for that anyway.
But that plan included tearing it all down, didn't it? And basically starting over.
I'd have to read that again. What we've done out there, and then we also got some state money, if I'm correct, Beth, that we used to do some upgrades just to keep what we had to keep online, which is fire suppression to Cascades. Because every time something breaks, Mike goes out there, you can't find the part, you know. I'm like you, Mr. Ivy, the walls are okay, but you can't find parts to upgrade what's sitting in there.
No, yeah,
So part
I knew
of-
that.
But the tanks are probably fine.
Yeah.
You know, things like that maybe can be salvaged, and then you'd be replacing all the working parts, I guess you'd say.
It's gotta have that.
So we've had money and we've done some things, but that money's coming to a close because it did what it was supposed to do.
Should we
and there we
get
go.
an assessment on it to see what kind of cost it would take.
That's what she's saying.
Well, and I think that would be appropriate.
I mean, up to
Take
date.
that engineering report and say, you know, whoever, give us an estimate, because if we apply with this thing with Senior Tillis's office, I'm sure that's gonna be part of
Mhm.
the package,
Right.
some type
Well,
of
the
estimate.
EPA's come on to say they would give us technical assistance, so I think if we can get this rolling, that can be part of our, because I'm not sure the walls are really that necessary. You know, a modern plant may not fit in that footprint, right? So I'm not wedded to that space per se, but I do think there's an opportunity there.
Okay, well, I'll pull that engineering report, read that some more, and figure out who does that kind of work, right? And I'm sure you all could probably help me, I'll find the information. Who does that work and see if we can get an estimate on, here's the report, what's the cost as related to this report? And we can look in that report, and Mr. Ivy's point, to say, was this a total overhaul you were giving us here? Or is this just what it would take to get it operating fully? Because if you're gonna sell water anywhere, I mean, you gotta have full operations going, you know. And somebody, then we probably need staff out there, at least one, to run it.
And that's just the water.
Yes, sir, that's just the water
The
side.
waste side, and the waste side estimate I remember that was gotten was digging it all up and starting over too, and I don't see that. I especially don't see it on that side, because that's just concrete takes in the ground, it's not, you know, yeah, I know you're gonna have to do pumps.
And honestly, I haven't done a lot of work with this, because there was no money to do work with, but now that there might be some opportunities out there, it won't hurt to start looking and getting better information, more current information.
Okay, anybody else got anything?
Are there any water pieces to the St. Andrews?
Any what?
Water pieces, any
You mean, like
water
treatment
infrastructure,
or,
things that we might
I've
look
not heard
at
of them having
with,
their own.
Well, the city has some wells out there, but that's separately heated. I think they have 2 wells out there.
But not treat their own plants or anything out there.
That
Yeah.
is.
there's no county infrastructure that
No,
supports that, or I'm just trying to think of a way to, if there might be a resource use there.
I don't even think they treated the pumps from their wells to their treatment.
I assume,
Across the
I
hospital.
assume they are a,
But they put it in
Customer
their,
seal.
in their HVAC loop. And the loop, they got a loop that runs all across the campus that heats and cools, and they use that water in there.
The city wells too, the water that you're, I didn't know what, I know the city had a couple wells out there. Because it's so close to their treatment plant, so.
Okay.
Morning. Good morning. We're in the middle of the water board, so yes. We didn't start with the other board yet. So do we need a approval on this budget, or we don't need an approval for that? So that's just an update on the water district. So any other questions or concerns? Without that, we'll take a motion to adjourn the water board.
Make the motion to adjourn the water.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned until 9:00, which is 11 minutes. Dorothy, can you mute that until, just leave it up, and then we'll start at 11? At 9.
I am. You're pretty sharp.
Yeah, I thought you got back to Houston.
No, thank you. No,
2 travelers up here.
God, I tell you,
I'm glad to be home.
Sandy North.
you know how it is coming back. That's a brutal trip.
I ain't never, I'm
Oh, be careful of that. It's not easy to get out.
glad for my wife.
Yeah, I hear you.
Y'all might.
So our next step.
I told you that month to go pay the
Yes, sir.
interest and landing.
Yeah.
Get back.
Thank you.
Good, how are you, sir?
All
That's pretty interesting.
All right, I think that got us right. All right, so now we're live. All right, so I'll call to order the reconvened meeting of the Scotland County Board of Commissioners, June 26, 2025. And we'll move straight into an approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda? We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. And a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, prior funding requests.
Okay, I lumped these into one agenda item because that's exactly what they are. Two of them, you have heard of them before, and we need to make some final decisions. I will start with SACS, or the Storytelling, Scotland County Arts Center Council. And if you remember, they came and they presented and they requested funding, and you tabled it because it's one of those that, as a county, we're not required to provide storytelling and arts center functions. And so there's that whole legal question of really can you? Because they are not providing something that we are required to provide. So can you provide the money? So you all tabled that, and now we're back with that to make a final decision. They requested $8,000.
But the question still remains, right?
Yes, sir.
Their request remains.
Their request remains.
Yeah.
Well, I think on the three that you have on here, you probably have, and this one maybe of the three might be a stretch, but you probably have the authority to do the Crime Stoppers is clearly public safety. That's probably one of the broader authorities the board has. So I do think that without advocating that you do one or the other, you probably have the adequate authority to do these if you choose to.
We gave him 8,000 last year.
We did not give him anything last year.
What have we done in previous years prior to that?
Previous years, it was this setup where we took 4,000 from the library budget and 4,000 from Parks and Rec's budget and gave it to the Storytelling Center.
I don't like that either. I don't like taking
And
money.
those directors don't like that, because even when the library had tried to work with Storytelling Center,
Didn't we give them COVID money?
But part of that was the promise to deliver some services
absolutely.
that would help the library
Right.
in their mission.
And of course, Mr. Johnson will correct me if I'm not saying this right. That's it. You have to be in some type of contractual agreement that they are going to be providing something that your county needs to provide.
And we've done some of those contracts with some of the ARPA funds.
And you had ARPA funds that we don't have now.
Well, I don't mind, I don't mind giving them. My issue is taken away from Parks and Rec. Literacy Council. We don't need to do
Parks and Rec
that.
and the library, you all know, we've been in budget sessions. It is very, very tight budget.
Well, let me ask you this then. Are these included?
These are not in the budget right
Okay.
now. SACS is not, no, none of this is in the budget right now.
Well, I know opioid's kind of separate anyway.
Yes, sir.
But the other two.
I tell you, I think the litmus test for whether or not public funds can be expended goes to this whole issue around, is this something we have a duty to do or an obligation to do? And I think the best way to vet that is to bring these things to the department heads of the departments that this service would help, and let them make a recommendation to us. So to me, Crime Stoppers might go to the sheriff's department and say, look, this is something we provide that fits nicely with your mission of public safety. If this becomes outside of his budget or undoable within his budget, then I think we can get involved. But I think as the chief law enforcement officer for the county, he's the one who should say, yes, this is value added, and I'm willing to spend money on it. And if he ends up at $2,500 or $1,500 he needs help with, then I think he comes to us. This would be very similar if I were the Red Cross and I were going to provide CPR training for EMS, the county employees, because we didn't have enough staff to do it. And we said, we're going to give the Red Cross $1,500 to provide this. We have the contractual relationship, and then I think it's an appropriate expenditure of money. I think that's the best litmus test to make sure that whatever we're giving ends up supporting our mission, whether it's the library, Parks and Recs, EMS. And I think it's a smart just way to approach this so we don't end up in a position of trying to justify something that is great as an idea, but perhaps not an effective expenditure of our county funds.
Don't want to close the door on them because their mission is to provide to the community. I understand completely what you're saying here. In the past, we funded them. I don't know if we're in a position to fund them with $8,000 this budget year, but I think it would be a good gesture to do something, whether it be half something in this upcoming budget. Don't want to just go cold turkey on them because we don't know what they're planning to do. But I completely understand what you're saying, Ed. We need to make sure what the mission of the board is and is that linked to our mission. But
Yeah, and I think these department heads are probably in the best position to say, how does this add value? Because if we're making up for a staffing shortfall and we pay a nonprofit to provide that service, I think that is completely consistent with our duty. It's just there's no shortage of good ideas. And I think part of the library story involved a lack of accountability on the outcomes. You know, I'm giving you this money and I think you're going to provide these things, but it's not very tight. Am I right?
I think that would be fair, and I think if Ms. Bailey was here, that's what she would tell you.
Yeah, because I think the word I heard was that there was some disconnect between what was promised and what was delivered.
And there is really, I don't think, any connection with Parks and Rec that they're doing that makes up for anything Parks and Rec is not doing, not a
I don't see
storytelling.
that.
So Parks and Rec just
That's
lost
not
4
really
grand
a tie.
just because.
well, and that's a tragedy
Yeah.
because Parks and Rec is for our kids.
That's right. I
You
mean,
know,
I think all these departments are doing important work and we
If
just,
there is a tie, it's probably closer to the library than Parks and Rec is not on point, if there's a departmental connection.
so my challenge to this organization would be go to the library and tell the library, what are we gonna do that's gonna help you accomplish your mission for citizens of Scotland County? They come up with a plan, a contract, some accountability, and then they come to us and say, hey, this is kind of extraordinary, but we'd like to use this nonprofit to help us do this part of the library's mission. And then I think all of us can go, if the library director believes in it and it makes sense, we help.
but in the meantime, do we say nothing?
So what I'm hearing from Mr. O'Neill, and I guess waiting to see if the rest of you want to go this route, we wouldn't find an additional $8 or $4 or whatever $1,000 in our current budget as presented today. We would talk to the library director, and if she feels there is some kind of contractual relationship we can set up and they're held accountable for what's in the contract, then we would dedicate part of what is in her budget to this.
Or we could do a budget.
Or you can do a
And we
budget
can give them
and-
extra money
Yeah.
if it makes sense to do
Correct.
that.
I'm more apt to do a budget amendment than to take from the library.
But see, sometimes it's a
Well, and we
one-for-one.
know all those departmental budgets they're not luxury items in those budgets this year. They're what they need to operate.
Well, that's not what Ed is proposing to take.
No, but he want them to work with the library, and from what April's saying, they need to get with the library and see if it fits within their budget.
And the library may not have it to give, and that may be so also, but I agree with what Ed's saying. If they've got some extra funds that they can give, that's a little less burden on us. I'm not saying the library just dole it out like cotton candy.
But I'll give you a good example. In Robinson County, there's a nonprofit that has a bookmobile, right? So let's say that nonprofit existed in Scotland County and would provide bookmobile services for Scotland County. Well, instead of spending $25,000 to replace a generator on our bookmobile, maybe it would make sense to give $5,000 to that nonprofit to provide that bookmobile service. That way, we were spending the funds appropriately on something we would have already spent it on. We've got the library involved. We know what we're getting for our money. I think we just need a policy change to create that path for these types of requests. So that if I'm doing something that I think will benefit EMS's mission or the 911 center's mission, whatever it is, I start there. And then those department heads come before the board and say, this is what I got. And I believe this helps me get my mission done in a cost-effective way. So that's what I would advocate to deal with these.
Hey, bro, where the budget at? Where the budget at?
The
Did she present
library's
you?
budget?
No,
Yeah, before we.
no,
Yeah.
Arts
Oh,
Council
what,
budget.
I don't know what their budget is. I know they clearly have worked without our funding for at least 1 year, maybe 2.
Look, I mean, in the past, we've been funding them. I don't want to not give them anything. And, I just don't see no budget, when we see where the money's going.
Right, they didn't provide that, and when she came, I don't remember her talking about what their budget is or what their expenditures are.
That's it.
But I'm gonna go to Duke's point here. I think we could offer an amendment to the budget 2 months from now. If this nonprofit can meet with the library director and this looks like something and we understand the cost and we understand what we're getting and it's fundamental to our mission, then bring it. And, we'll figure it out from there.
Amendment on the budget, yeah.
Yeah, I think, but right now, I don't think we say yes just because we've done it in the past or,
Well,
I just,
I do think.
we'll never escape that
I
loop
do
if
think
we
we
don't.
do have to start putting obligations and accountabilities in place
I agree with
if
that.
we're going to
I agree with that.
designate public funds to providers that are not a part of the county.
And let me make an
And this might be
important,
the way to do it. It's absolutely go through the appropriate department head to do that.
and I'll make another point that if it's ARPA funds or opioid funds, those have different rules. I'm talking about county funds under state law that we've really got to make sure we follow the law first and foremost, right?
So I think what I'm hearing is I will get in touch with Ms. Maley, our library director, and she can get in touch with SACS and they can come up with what that looks like. And we will bring it back to you all. And I think we'll bring it back complete with some kind of written agreement as to what they're gonna do and what it does to help us. And then we can come up with a funding amount. Is that what I'm hearing?
And I don't think Clarence has got, I think a little budget from them would be helpful
Well,
also.
that can be part of
Yeah, make
the
sure
agreement.
Budget.
Okay.
Let me see where the money's going.
Exactly.
So do we need any kind of thing to amend our policies that,
Well, I think that's a good point too. In the meantime, I can also maybe start developing some type of procedure when these requests come up. This is what we're gonna follow, and then you all can look at that at another meeting and decide if that's how you want it to be every time.
and I think it would be good
I
for
mean,
the
that makes it
nonprofits
easy.
to know,
Well, that's the point.
how do I
5
get my name in
nonprofits come
that?
up next year. This is what we follow. Work with us through these guidelines right here. Okay, so we'll handle SACS that way. Then you have Crime Stoppers.
I think we're a little on the same thing with Crime Stoppers, although we did get that information from them that said they can do that.
Right.
I don't
They
have,
can't,
as
and
much- I don't have as much problem with them.
no, and it's,
$1,500 request.
and it's self-explanatory with them. Their funds is to go towards anonymous tips and on crime. And it's spelled out. If you don't pan out, you don't get paid.
Well, Sheriff, if they approached you for $1,500, would you give it to them out of your budget?
For Crime Stop?
Yeah.
Well, no, if it's, we could if it's already there, but I know they prior to.
You
Well-
give us money back every year, so would you give them $1,500?
Would you give it to them? Would you give, if you had it, would you give it to them?
to
Out of your
Crime
budget, out of your budget. If they needed it,
If they needed $1,500, would you give it to them?
I would.
yeah.
Okay, then, see, this is using the exact rubric I described,
Yeah, he had to go in there for a minute.
Because I was getting some money, but.
Yeah,
We're
but,
trying to obligate you to something.
no, because he understands what that $1,500 will eventually do.
I can't
How you
say,
like to be put on the?
I can't say, I know what it was like when we didn't have it.
Yeah.
And when Duke was still cheap, they brought it back, and I know what it's like now. I get tips constantly, all day long, and they have really panned out, just like the video we recently saw about the female.
Right.
So when people in the community ask us, why did you spend that money? The sheriff looked at it, said it's the right thing to do. It helps us. It helps the county.
Well, you're saving it, because if I take 2 or 3 investigators out there trying to find out who's all a part of this video or that video, that's a lot of time, money, traveling, expense, wear and tear on the cars. And instead, you get an email and it says, hey, there's 4 people in that. So yes, sir, we save it. We save it on the back end of it. And probably a lot more.
That 15, right. That 1,500 could turn into 150,000.
Easily on investigations, yes.
So do we need a motion to update our policy or to look at a policy in the future, or do we?
I think that's what I'll work on and bring to
I think
you all.
policy board's gonna have to.
Yeah.
Right, we'll work on it and then we'll bring it to you all and you all can say this is what we want to follow and then
Okay.
request.
I think it's a great idea.
All right. I was
So-
doing something on the airplane.
So are you approving, Crime Stoppers?
So, or, you know.
No, I say let's, on the ground.
No, on the Crime Stoppers, I mean, whether we run it through the sheriff or we just give it straight to him.
Well, this would be a good chance to start our new process. Sheriff?
Well, I know it's gonna have to go through, where it's at now, because, when that program wasn't very active, we were gonna start a program, and because we already had one. So, and Chris Young, Assistant Chief Young, does an awesome job overseeing that program. Of course, we have one working with him, Deputy, Cody Gaines. So, but I don't know where, I think by me overseeing anything like that or having a part of it would be,
Because,
Well, you're not overseeing it. You just. give-
well,
Just giving them money.
yeah, but as the sheriff has stated, we designate somebody as a director, and then you got an assistant director, whether the director be from the sheriff's department or the police department. That's from Scotland County. And they collaborate in this region, Richmond County, Anson County. But those guys handle their own proceeds. They don't even deal with the payout.
Mhm.
They have a board like Chris, like Assistant Chief Young stated. They don't know how much being paid out. They don't deal with that part. Their team and their board pay you according to what the tip do, where it leads to an arrest or not. Sheriff never involved himself in it, other than if he need a team member on there, he select who he wants. When we started it, I selected Young, which was a captain at the time, and he took it and ran with it. We didn't need to be a part of it for different reasons.
I don't think we're talking about being a part of it. I think what we're talking about, not so much Crime Stoppers, but any organization come up here. Well, we don't know if the money we give them is doing any good. We don't know, but the sheriff does. He knows. He just sat here and said, well, yeah, the Crime Stoppers is doing good. He knows. So, it's just kind of vetting them before they get to us is basically what it is.
I will say this, from being an outsider looking in, those folks may be asking for, or we may be asking for $1,500. I know from experience, if there's something happening in the county, such as an event, Relay for Life, Coomber Festival, Juneteenth, them fellas, John Blue, they're out working to raise money to support Crime Stoppers.
Oh, yeah.
And so, and I don't know how many they do a year.
National Night Out.
Yeah, they do a bunch. So I guess what.
Yeah, we're not all the funds they operate on.
Yeah.
$1,500 not gonna get you many
No.
tips.
Probably sometime past
And
even more. But
even if we require, like what they did in our meeting, we can get ready to have a lot of folks coming up, to somewhat sell their pitch. I think Crime Stoppers, they do it every year.
Yeah, well, I think now, based on this endorsement, this fits exactly what we're trying to accomplish. So if he has it in his budget to give, then give it, but if you don't, come to us and say, yep, I don't have $1,500, they need $1,500. And then we work it out
And
as
then
an
we run it
amendment.
through him to give it Crime Stoppers.
Well, he's,
Well, we wouldn't necessarily,
Well, and that kind of makes perfect sense, because if the law says it has to supplant something you should be doing, that means you don't have the manpower or the equipment or whatever it is to do it, which means you should take what you would have spent on that and give it to the person that should. It's not extra money for them to run their programs. Like, and I guess what I'm trying to say, like, the sheriff, I'm not gonna put words in your mouth, but as a county, there's a Crime Stopper program. It just happens to kind of sit over at City of Larmer. You could run one yourself if you wanted to, I guess.
Well, they only
it's a county.
Yeah, we
but
do.
why duplicate?
It's a
Yeah.
county.
That's the
It's a
point.
county thing.
There's
It's a
no
county
point in duplicating.
Right.
So we're just shifting to what we would or could do anyway.
And let's be honest, they probably went to the city too to get 1,500.
And that's fine.
I think
That's fine.
Right, and it's not like,
So,
you're doing anything.
may I ask this? If we're gonna give it from our budget, which is perfectly fine with me, we'll have it. What if we reach a place where we're getting close to, the starting the finishing out on the old budget, starting the new budget like we're doing now, and we had some extra funds then, could we move it that way?
Going into the next fiscal year,
Before the budget clears out?
probably be the best thing.
That's kind of a budget question. I'm not sure what the rules
Just
are.
wondering, 'cause
Either way, it would be a budget.
Yeah.
Well, not if it's in your current budget.
I
If-
think what you're asking is if we had extra funding at the end of the year, are we gonna take it and put it back in general fund to build up our fund balance? Or are we gonna say, hey, we have this extra and it would work well over here, let's send it over there? And I think that's just a judgment call.
Yeah.
And depends on where your fund balance is and what your finance officer says we need and.
Well, just taking Ralph's scenario, in my head, it makes more sense to do it if he's got money left now,
Going into the first.
then instead of rolling it into next year.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I don't mean, it don't matter to them if they get the check this
I
week.
think that's what he's asking, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the
Making
mechanics
it harder
of
than
it
what it
is
should be. That was a good suggestion.
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
making this
We keep
more
moving-
difficult.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I have never failed to see the value of Crime Stoppers. I just want to make sure that we're setting up a scenario where we're treating people equally when they come before us and obeying the law, so.
Well, if not that, we all have put $200 piece in and give it to them.
Yeah, well, I think we.
Personal money, we were able to give $200 pieces
Yeah.
to commissioners.
I donated $250 when it came to the bank.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah,
If, you know.
I'm giving 1 month's salary, so.
So now I'm hearing, let's approve Crime Stoppers and let's send them the 1,500 out of this year's budget before it closes out. Beth, is that, any thoughts on that? That's fine.
Okay.
But that's not what we discussed.
Well,
I mean, I don't care either way.
Well, we kind of did the process, but we did it verbally instead of more formally, right?
So are we taking it out of the county budget? Are we taking it out of or we let him?
Well, I heard the sheriff say he could find 50.
I know he did, but that's not what
Well,
I'm
if you're
hearing.
taking it out of this year's budget before June 30th, it doesn't matter. Like,
Okay.
because I mean, that they're at the end of the year.
If he don't have it
I
by now,
envision they're at the end of the
you don't
year
want it.
and they're balancing departmental budgets and it's all going like this.
If he don't,
Right?
if he
So
hasn't
you
purchased
can
it by
call
now,
it
you don't
sheriff, you
want
can call it whatever.
it.
If you're going into
Complicated.
next year and taking it from fiscal year 26, then you're either gonna have to increase your expenditures in your budget or take it out of the sheriff's budget, and then if he misses that $1,500 later, do amendment for him
I
next
think
year.
that's perfectly fair.
I'll make the motion to give him the $1,500 out of this current year budget, sheriff department. Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
That's my finance.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, Sheriff.
My finance guy.
Now we know the Crime Stopper relationship will be very strong.
Hey, that'll show you by coming to a meeting. All right, we'll move on to the opioid, which is totally different bucket of money, right?
Yes, opioid is a totally different bucket of money. At your June meeting, we brought each of the program's budget requests, and you had discussion about, hey, this money is not gonna last forever. And we do know we need to stretch it, and we do know we're not totally sure about the outcomes of each of these programs. We know some of the outcomes, but I don't know that we have a true picture yet. And so I kind of went back to the drawing board. You have something that looks like these spreadsheets, and it was sent to you also, that I have broke down each budget. So you will see what they requested. You will see what they got this year, what they requested for next year, and what I am recommending that they are funded.
Well, let me ask before you go any further, because I'm looking at this, and I'll just take the drug court. You got a 25 budget, a 26 request, and then a revised operational. If most of those are blank, but does that mean they're different or is zero? So in other words, the $1,200 for recovery group supplies.
No, revised is what I would recommend you actually fund.
So if there's nothing in there, there's nothing.
The revised, if there's nothing in there, it's a zero.
Correct.
That's what I'm saying.
But if you let me explain, so you see, if you're looking at drug court, Mr. Ivy, that's what you're looking at,
Yeah.
and it's the first one. You've got $10,000, and the notes say they have $10,000 to spend between their operating and their contracted services. They have the same staff member they have in place now, which costs $70,000. Now, on top of that, instead of handing them an extra $10,000 or $20,000 for housing services or for mental health services, we have that in a different bucket of money that they can draw from. Because at least two of these programs overlap. Their mission is they basically do the same thing with a slightly different population of people. And their social workers do the same things all day long. And so I thought instead of dedicating housing and counseling services in each of their budgets, why don't we have a separate pot over here that they can draw from when those clients need it?
And that's under the other tab.
That is under the last tab, other, that is correct. And of course, you can change anything you like. And you can change, I just came up with numbers there to designate. I think with housing, we have to be a little careful. We are not running a homelessness program. We are treating opioid addiction and substance abuse addiction. So we've got to be careful that all our money is not spent on housing. And we've seen from the reentry program, which is also a very similar program, that is where the money goes. It just goes to house people, and then the treatment, if the people say, well, I don't want to go to treatment, we've done nothing but house them for a few months, and we never worked on their concern. So you will see the drug court and the outreach program look very similar in their budgets, because again, they're really doing the same job. They're working with people who they've got a referral from to get them in a place where they're better off with their opioid addiction or use. And they can tap into these other funds to support those people as well. Those two programs right now are serving a total of 9 clients. So we're paying 2 full-time people and we're serving 9 people. We need to think about that, either how we're going to boost up those programs, because if we talk to our hospital, our EMS, probably our 911 and our sheriff's department, we know opioid use here is everywhere. And there's more than 9 people using opioids in Scotland County that we should be helping.
Well, that is up a little bit because it was like 6.
Still, neither one of those numbers are
Well, that's
acceptable.
between 2 programs, the 9 people.
Neither one of those numbers are acceptable for the amount of money.
And for the amount of people that's involved.
Right.
I mean, I guess the question is how much, if you save one of them, was it worth it all? But that, you know.
We got more people working than people we've served.
That's an emotional way, that's what I was trying to get.
Yeah.
That's
I'll tell you, I think the other first principle here that is involved is we were thinking of actually providing funding the basic structure these programs need, but all the other ancillary stuff that goes around it is part of their fundraising effort and their grant writing and other things like that. Because I think what happens when you have a pot of money like this, people just go, wow, I got to get as much of that piece as I can. So I think if we provide the salary for the addiction specialist and for positions that need to help the program function, then they can use grant money and fundraising on their own to create I want to go to this $25,000 conference, you know, in California. They can do that with grant funding or money they raise like other nonprofits do. And I think that just changes the whole calculus about how you approach spending the money and then coming back to us and saying, this is what we did with the money you gave us. You gave us an addiction specialist and a support specialist. We have 45 clients in this program. Those people are busting hump and making a difference.
Well, it is a tragedy. 6 people with the amount of money or 9 or whatever. When we know there's a problem. The settlement is to improve the problem.
Yes,
For opioids and other substance abuse in this county. You know directly, probably a high percentage of folks you deal with have other underlying issues that cause them to break into stuff and to become violent, things of that nature. So all this stuff work hand in hand. We do have to look at how we're allocating these funds. And do we go back and look at the results from these funds? You know, when this money is gone, will our problem be fixed in this county? And that's the bottom line.
And we as a county are responsible to reporting outcomes of the NCACC, who kind of monitors this money. And so an outcome is not, I saw 300 people in a year. An outcome is, we worked with, we worked with 20 people and 10 of them have tested clean for 6 months. That's an outcome, not just seeing somebody. So we also have to
Well,
this is.
measure effectiveness. And
if
that's
this money was results driven, would we get funded this year?
Right. Well, this is $460,000 worth of for 1 year, if I add right, my math right.
Yeah, it is still a lot.
And we gotta consider that fund is, what did we finally determine, 5 million total over the whole term?
And it's always a moving target.
Might be more
Yesterday,
money.
We got notification we're getting more funds.
Right.
So it's always,
I hope we get better nonprofits who come in and say, I can provide housing for you. I can provide treatment. I want to be part of this because it is results driven. And people who are producing results ought to be getting the funding that's going to make a difference. Because I want to see us go from number 1 for ER visits. I want to see us come down because that's what translates to lives saved.
so
But you're looking
that
for a
was my
resolution to match
thought.
what you have.
what we are gonna have to do a resolution. And if you agree with this or you come up with what you want to do today, your resolution will come at your July meeting to formally approve.
Well, and this is actually less than what we did last year, I think.
It is.
Is it
Well,
the same?
and I'll be honest, I went in and for like schools, they wanted to run a day camp and buy backpacks and I just kind of cut through some of that extra to give them what they need to run operations, which is of course their staff, some supplies, curriculum.
Tell you, if you had to raise $30,000 in the community to fund this summer camp, would you do it? And,
No,
I don't think you could raise
And
30,000.
I think, are we gonna spend 30,000 on, how many kids did they say that was gonna serve 20 to 30,000 on 20 kids for the summer? I mean, it's a judgment call.
I think right now with the schools, we're providing funding for the education component. And, I think that is a core part of their mission, and it makes sense.
Right, and they're part of a program that they use. And I don't wanna pick on the schools, but, you kinda asked that, what the result was of this year's. And they really didn't have any numbers other than say they touched 7,000 people. Well, you only have 5,000 in the school, so how did we do that, number one? And then how did you know who to focus on? And it was focused on kids that they caught vaping. And I said, tie that together. How does that go from this to opioid?
Well, and some of
I just
the,
took it that it was a reach to make that leap. I mean, I'm not saying there ain't, but that,
well, they're still gonna, they still need to provide us numbers, that NCACC numbers. You know, NCAC said, we wanna see the number of in-school suspensions or out-of-school suspensions from this year to next year. So what you're doing, dropping some of that because, you may get an in-school suspension for having a vape or a pill or something.
have they
I
ever
mean, is it
requested their funds?
Yeah.
They did. They're waiting the last minute for that.
But they did, so, but this was an idea to try to stretch our money for more years.
But we don't have to do this today. It'll be at July 2nd.
You do not, if you say, we like these numbers, that's what I'll put in the resolution. And
Okay,
we'll,
that was my question. Where you didn't do a resolution?
No.
I mean, I'm fine with this because it does, but I think after this year, on all these programs, a lot of last year was setting it up, getting it going and all that. But next year, we're really gonna have to look at the results. What happened?
Well, we got some baseline numbers,
Right.
right? Got baseline numbers, and then we'll look and see where it goes.
Right.
So April, who will be the housing and treatment coordinator? So if I run the drug court and I have a client who needs to go into inpatient treatment, who do I talk
We
to?
will have to decide there, and I think we're gonna have to come up with some written criteria. So it's not, I need housing,
Yeah.
do they meet X, Y, and Z? Have they signed up to have their first appointment with a substance abuse counselor?
Right.
Things like that. They've gotta have, and I'm talking about the client has to have skin in the game for us to have skin in the game.
So for housing and treatment, we'll have one social worker who would, or whatever, that would actually be the point of contact, that when you need housing assistance, you talk to this person.
We will have to have somebody to,
I'm
one, to
assuming
make
it would be the
consistent.
person at social services that
It should,
doing the
one, it'll have to be
program.
somebody that, for consistency's sake,
Yeah,
and then two, that can follow whatever is in place.
because they should be able to serve 4 programs. I mean, if housing is housing, right, whether you're there for
And
this
housing
program
isn't a
or that.
program, it's a phone call to say, do you have a room? I mean,
Right, but somebody's gonna have to track the expenditure, make sure it fits the program and blah, 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 but I think that's gonna help a lot, because they came in here and said housing was the #1 issue, yet no one asked for money for housing.
They did.
Well,
In
one
their
person asked
budgets.
for,
Right.
We're talking about the shelter.
No, in these opioid budgets, opioid outreach asked for funding for housing, which we're not denying, we're just kind of put it in a different bucket. So they can draw from it. So more than one program can draw from that pot of money.
that's
Right. Not setting up 4 different buckets of money for housing.
Yeah.
Okay. So I hear a consensus to have her draw up the resolution matching these numbers.
Yeah.
And then we'll take it up on July 2nd. Okay. All right, so that takes care of that item, right? Item 2 is a county attorney consideration. I think he's offered his services for free.
We thank you.
Now, I don't want to put you where the sheriff was, but can we talk?
The sheriff has a choice, so I was
But I'm gonna be
you
honest
can
with
talk, but I'm not listening.
you, well, there's a letter in there requesting, what's our current rate?
Current rate's 200, it's been 200 for probably 7 or 8 years. And I'm just asking that it get brought into alignment with what some of the other local attorneys are, who represent governmental entities charge.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I wouldn't look at that, and I'm not an attorney, so
$250 an hour.
250. I'm not an attorney, and I wouldn't.
Well, hey,
I think as long
I'm
as.
gonna cut the chase. I make a motion to increase our attorney fees from $200 an hour to $250 an hour.
Thank you, sir.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Yeah, so you-
But after 10 hours, we should get 1 hour free.
Okay, 2026 fee schedule.
Okay, so you only have 2 fee schedules that I sent out to you. One is Parks and Recreation, and if you'll take a look, the things in yellow are the things that they recommend changing. And and those are upping our, and we have talked about this before, so if you think you've heard it, you are correct. But we made another amendment to it to see if you would agree to. But we would like to up our, I guess you'd say our enrollments. That's not the right word, our registration fees from $15 to $20. We have the lowest in any county around. And I think I said before, we will never let a kid not play that doesn't have $20 to play.
But-
We have people out there that will absolutely help get them registered.
I thought we talked in the past about those families who may have 3 or more in the cutting rate. You know, if you got 5 kids and they playing,
Okay.
give them a
Is that
discount.
something you all want,
Yeah.
Yeah, I
to,
think we need to look at that.
Yeah.
okay,
How
we
much?
need to look at it
I mean,
quickly.
I'm just, I don't know. what number.
Something that's fair.
Go back to $5 a kid. That puts you back at 15.
Yeah, if you got 3 or more, or whatever, or 5 or more.
Well, then you would pay less for 3 kids than one person would pay for one child.
No.
How you figure?
No, he's saying not paying
No,
$20 per child, 15 per.
Yeah, in other words,
If you got 3 kids,
or
you do
more.
15, you get $45.
15 each.
Yeah,
Oh, I thought you
yeah,
did 5 each, okay.
No.
Okay, I'm gonna make a note over here. So you want 3 or more kids?
I think
Is
that's
that
fair.
what you're saying?
I don't wanna speak for the whole board.
I think it's fair.
3 or more,
Yeah.
it goes down to, back to 15 each?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll, get that stuck in there. Okay,
I didn't know it would do this. I'm sitting here watching.
oh, you're watching me type in there, yeah.
I didn't know it did that.
And then we're removing Hammond Park because we don't maintenance Hammond Park anymore. We're removing those
Don't
key
do that.
deposits because we're not giving keys out to people to our parks anymore. We have people to open parks and we have staff that do that. We added football field because we will have our own football field that, we know last year, our Legion field that we were in charge of, we did have a private, private football team, a travel football team that rented that and used it. So we need to add football to our fee schedule because now we're gonna have our own field. We think it may be a good idea to raise our softball, baseball field use from $150 to $200 a day. I say that because one, I understand that is a deal for somebody to come to Scotland County and use our facilities for $200 a day for all those fields. And it costs us money when they do that. It's not, we have at least 2 staff out there working on weekends. We're having to clean concession stands. We're having to do what you do to the dirt on a baseball field. We have to run the lines. So somebody renting is not just money in our pocket. We're probably losing money, honestly. Even if we look $200, we're losing money. But we have great fields, and I think we are getting a lot of feedback that people like to come to our fields, and so they're starting to build that up and host a lot that tournaments.
So how many people we got coming from out of the county?
That was gonna be my question.
We
many
had
events do
one
we have?
gentleman that wants to
I
rent
have two.
6 weekends
I have
already.
2 gentlemen that have contacted me, but they cannot get anybody else to answer the telephone, so they contacted me. One of them's name is David Payton, another gentleman's name is Brad. David Pate, does UAAA SA softball for the girls, and Brad does UAAA softball for the boys. He would like to bring 2-day tournaments to Scotland County. He has sent us the dates, and we're working with them.
We have been talking to him.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think
yeah,
he already has 6 weekends booked,
yes.
and then the other gentleman
And we're
has
still
already
working
been
on-
here 1 or 2 weekends, so it's becoming
So,
And
so,
they-
more and more
they're-
popular.
They're asking one of their friends come down and look at our soccer field, and they're also wanting to maybe potentially bring soccer as well. That was the last thing he called me about.
Yeah, so,
So how many events have we done in the past out there?
yeah, outside,
That's what I want.
outside
from
of
what I
county.
understand, maybe 1 or 2
Why?
a year. I don't know why.
I mean, I'm not
Many years
facing you,
ago, I don't
and
know
I wish
why.
Lawrence was here, cause I'd love to ask you.
I
And
personally
he may
think-
not know,
Couldn't
she get,
answer that.
but I don't understand
I
why we're not
personally-
utilizing this
You know what?
piece of equipment.
I personally came off a vacation that day when the gentleman David done his tournament, come and sat in the stands. He didn't know who I was from anybody, watched a couple games. Then I introduced myself, and he was very impressed. He loved our fields, and he says, hey, I want to bring more to Scotland County, and I appreciate you taking time off your vacation.
And so like,
Are these for-profit travel ball teams?
Yes, so they're getting money at the gate as well.
Yeah,
All
so
five.
I'll tell you what, I think if you're a for-profit entity and you're wanting to use our field, I think that's a different fee schedule than Parks and Rec. I
We
really
just
do.
want to be attractive, and we want people here.
We
And
do,
we're
and
building that up, and so.
I'm not saying it needs to be exorbitant, but I don't think we should lose money and bring in staff for someone else to make money.
And they have to work around when we're using them too, like we had T-ball on those fields this year. We're entertaining working with Optimus next year to use our fields for practice. I had a travel team contact me wanting to rent our fields for his own team's practice, so working with a lot of different people.
I tell you, I think
Get that set up.
for-profit entities should be looked at differently on a fee schedule than our own Parks and Rec or recreational leagues in the county. Because if you're gonna put on a 2-day softball tournament or a full day, that's gonna be a lot of staff at work.
Yeah, we do. have
And
to
this
do-
cleaning, there should be a cleaning fee. If they're leaving the
And
place such
Well, you'll
that.
see a concession
And also-
stand fee on here also, if they want our concession
And they're
stand.
complaining about our fields, they're saying our fields, the one complaint that I got is they said whenever they're playing baseball on that field, the baseball looks the color of the dirt. When they throw it, they can't see it coming. And that could possibly be a liability for us, and they suggested that we put clay on the field, so they've got a lot of great ideas, and they're willing to invest, not just
Well,
us.
I think raising the fee structure would be a good way for them to invest.
Absolutely,
Right,
I
because
think it
they
should be a
can't
different,
come work on our fields.
Right.
I
And
think
it
it should
takes
be a
us
different
money
price
to bring
though,
in
if
clay
it's,
on our fields. So I appreciate it.
But-
You
but-
gotta have money to do their input.
I think,
But they're wanting to include our children in our town who can't go to other entities.
Right.
As of my child can't go to another entity, so we need another entity.
And I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying, it's great to want really nice fields, but, we're kind of losing money on this deal.
I got you, but
yeah, but I think it should be a different price for someone to rent it from inside the county than outside the county. That should be a different price altogether.
Yeah, but then somebody's gonna get around it, because then they're gonna come to,
they get somebody locally to
right,
get
they're gonna
it.
get somebody local.
Yeah.
Because the piece of this, I think we're forgetting
Right.
about on tournaments and multi-day tournaments and that we
Everybody.
make is that the people that come in, they stay at a hotel, they eat, they buy gas, they go to Walmart and get whatever. I mean, so that's a piece
I
of it.
watched the Chick-fil-A bags come in that park that day.
Yeah,
I watched it. I
well,
was
so we
amazed. I'm
gotta
like,
keep that in mind, that it's also bringing.
And
in-
we're
We
not
talked-
talking
and
about
That's why we want
doubling
to
it.
keep it
I
attractive.
talked to Chick-fil-A and they said they had a very, very productive day because of that. So
And I'm not saying to double it or anything, but I don't think we ought to be
I don't.
underwater on providing something to an external for-profit business. I mean,
Outside the county. people?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, go up $50.
Well, another thing you look at is we got to have law enforcement there. So they said they couldn't play at Park Waver because law enforcement wasn't there. When they
Yeah,
were playing
they
a
had
tournament in
complaint.
Waver.
Well, in this day and time, you do need law enforcement.
Huh?
You need law
You
enforcement.
got that right, these kids.
Hey, I'm telling
These
you,
parents are crazy.
when you assume
My daughter
nothing
got
will happen,
solid and nothing was
it will be
amazing.
chaos.
So currently our softball, baseball field is, what's being requested is $200 a field per day.
That was the recommendation to go at $50. I think that,
But,
we're doing 150 now.
but there's how many fields out there? 3 fields?
Yeah,
Four fields.
least.
So
and 4.
if you rented the whole place, you'd be $800 a day. Or is that?
If we wanna make it per field.
Well, that's
But
what it says though.
You're correct, because I guess some tournaments don't need 4 fields, maybe they need 2, so, depends on how big it's gonna be.
Right. But if somebody was having a big tournament,
It
they'd
could
be
turn
spending
into-
$800 a
you are
day
right.
for that.
Yes, and they want it 2 days at a time.
And then if they want
They said
the concession stand, and when we say
I
that,
worked
they
on
get
it.
it, we clean it, and they get in there and they use it. Now, right now, we don't have a hot food permit, and they cannot go out and individually get a hot food permit and then work at our concession stand.
What?
So we thought it was fair to say, you want the concession stand, we will clean it, we'll open it, we'll get ready, and you can bring your own prepackaged foods and sell them, and that's more profit they're making for their sales. But right now, we're not doing hot foods, because in the county would have to maintain our own hot food permit with inspections and everything that goes along with that.
Are they allowed for a taco truck to pull up out there that applies
Yes,
for a
and we
permit?
have, we have Parks and Recs has contracts with several food trucks that when we have events, if they've contracted with us, they can come on site and sell.
I'm not against outside groups coming and using the field. I think the more you can use it, the better. I just want to see us have the money to keep these fields in good shape on an ongoing
Me
basis.
too, and Miss Tanya has a good point, and so does, the 2 gentlemen that she's been in contact with. Because we didn't have baseball this year, we're behind the mark in getting them ready, and all of a sudden people want to come for tournaments, and they call on Wednesday and say, I want to come Saturday.
But
Okay, and we're out there on Friday night lining fields, and that's the fact, we're out there,
so we didn't have baseball this year.
we had T-ball this year.
We didn't have girls softball,
We did not.
so Lindsay could go to Parks and Rec, she was
I
going to
got-
go.
No, it's all right. We didn't have baseball, we didn't have softball. I mean, Jeff and I were just talking. I don't know what year, Jeff. It don't matter.
It don't matter.
We remember.
Only thing I remember is Dominique was on your team, and I had Shaquille Willie.
No, seriously, see, it's simple to you guys, but to us it was very important.
Yeah,
That's right.
Jeff and I remember, and you guys can probably remember, when Legion Park was over flooded Monday through Thursday. And the only reason it wasn't Friday because we were following Scotland. We got to do something.
Well, I agree, and I think
We got to do something. This is ridiculous.
and I'm not blaming, and I wish he was here.
We got to do something.
I have been by to see Lawrence, and he's not there. But the directors back then went to these schools and spent time in these. I'm not talking about waving by, hey, how y'all doing? I'm talking about, I can remember Hyder Massey and Al Blades go and set up a daggone table for a half a day or better at each school. And they recruited these kids,
Right.
And I mean,
And to say that they won't sign up is not a good excuse.
Well,
I
and
I don't buy it.
if you can give the new administration and me a chance at Parks and Rec, if you remember, this will be our first year with the director, with the new athletic manager. That school gets in and we start registrations. Last year, we didn't have a director, and we moved registrations back 2 weeks because it didn't make sense to close it before school enrolled, right? And so I think you're exactly right. There's a tie there that we're not anymore grabbing onto. And we've got to do that. That's how you pull kids in. We've already had conversations with Optimus. They have too many kids that they can even handle. And I don't want to talk behind them that Mr. BJ is sort of Optimus, but that's what their board chair told me. Like, we got overloaded with kids. Next year, we got to do something together so there's even enough fields for all these kids to play on and practice on. And we got
So-
fields.
And that's what's puzzling. We're hearing they're not signing up. Kids are not, but they sign up at Optimus. And everybody's not gonna be on the same playing level.
No.
You're gonna have some kids that are developmentally, should be playing at a slower pace till they get up to par. Just thank God the Optimums accepted all those ball players this year. At least we had kids
And I
off
don't
the
know the
streets.
story behind why all of a sudden Parks and Rec said give everybody documents. I don't know.
Well, they shouldn't have done it regardless, if that's true.
Maybe the number of coaches that.
No, it's
Optimists didn't have enough coaches.
let me tell you something. It's a system. It's been failed on both angles. Coaching, going out recruiting good daddies and good men who want to go out and coach kids, not pursuing the kids. I mean, it wasn't easy. They tore up every car I bought. Hey, no, y'all, I'm not trying to make a joke out of it.
You're right.
We bought cleats. We fed kids who were hungry. It's a commitment. And I mean, they're not gonna come running, knocking down the door at Parks and Rec. You got to go out there and get them. You got to go find them. And sitting in your office saying that you're not gonna leave it won't get it done. And we sound like we're passionate about it because we enjoyed every second of it. We saw some bad kids stay out of trouble because of Parks and Rec. And we don't have that now. So that's
I
why we.
probably need to send you all everything Parks and Rec is doing this summer.
Where's our Parks and Rec director at? Why is he here?
Because I didn't know we needed to be here. I mean,
I thought
the
all
department
directors-
heads come if they wanna come, and if they don't, they don't. Like there's
Yeah.
a lot of
Maybe
times-
don't mind watching, but, well, look, I feel like we're covering a lot of topics under this one thing, and we need to kind of bring it back to the center.
Sure.
And look at the fee schedule, and then whatever time we can discuss all these other issues.
Actually, I'd like to hear his recommendation on the fee schedule, because he's the one that's gotta balance all these people coming in on
Well,
Friday.
this is his recommendation.
No, I'm talking
He brought
about
this to me.
if we're gonna increase fees, what does he think will help us get closer to being whole and give us money to?
But
And I
but
think-
you're talking just about like a commercial baseball.
Yeah, I am,
And,
but
and I think if we should go to 200 a day for local, but 250 for outsiders. I mean, like BJ just said, his dollars, what did you just say?
In Loris, we got a tournament tomorrow night and Saturday, and it's $400 a day in Loris.
And Loris?
Yeah, for
And
me,
is that per team?
Yeah, we need to go more than 250 then.
And how many,
If y'all mind, I'll be more than happy to kind of help.
Robert knows all about it.
Yeah, you go ahead with that.
I've been involved in travel ball since my daughter was 14, and I can tell you, these teams that play these sanctions, the team is paying anywhere from $750 to $1,400 just to play one weekend tournament.
Exactly.
If it's a 2-day tournament, they got 20 teams, you can do that math.
So,
Yes.
Now, I'll be more than happy to work with the county manager.
well, I
to
think
get
what
some
I hear Mr.
information.
O'Neill asking for is what Lawrence needs to do and put together, what does it cost us to host a tournament?
yeah,
What
and
does
let's
it
base
cost
our
us?
Absolutely.
fee, let's base
That's not
our
hard
fee
to put
schedule on
together.
what it cost us
And then
first.
if you want to revisit your skis fee, if it costs us $2,000, I'm just making numbers up, for a weekend, then you can decide your fee schedule after that. And
Yeah.
Lawrence can-
Because I do want to attract people coming. I mean, I think it's a good idea, but buying Chick-fil-A meals is a small benefit to us compared to getting money in our Parks and Rec budget to help buy clay if that's what's needed on the field.
If we're gonna open he said the concession stands were unopenable. He said if he could have opened that could have been more money. His complaint was, he said that he was not allowed to call in his own food trucks, that he called the ones on the list of Scotland County.
And
So they don't like, I mean, so that's he's kind of giving away his little bit of money that way too, so.
well,
But I think we ought to have a focus meeting with the Parks and Rec director and talk about some of these issues.
Well, I
and
think
see.
some of these issues, I say outsiders, people that are not county staff, and there's a reason that we allow the ones we contracted with. One is because it's our property, it's our risk, and it's our liability. And that's why our food trucks are allowed in, and
That's
he
what I
may
thought.
not agree with that or understand that, but that's the reason for that,
And I
and
would
it's a
say
good
let's
one.
support Scotland County businesses. I don't have any heartburn saying the food trucks that come here should be from Scotland County and locally owned business.
And they can be from anywhere, we just need to make sure they have insurance, they have what they need to be on our property, and our county not get in trouble because somebody rolled up without a food permit or without insurance or liability, right? We gotta protect ourselves.
That's right.
Okay, so why don't we do this? Why don't we go ahead and look at approving the fee schedule as is,
and then we can always come back and change
Right.
the baseball.
Okay,
That way we've got it set in place.
okay.
Again, and you already said it, but I want to make it even louder, that we don't ever deny any kid the right to play if they don't have the $20 or whatever it is. We get them in somehow. There's
Right.
other-
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No kid is
No,
going to be denied.
nobody's not gonna ever be denied the right
Right,
to
right.
play. So, so why don't we do that and then come back on the baseball thing after we've talked to Lawrence some. And have some
I would like to hear what Lawrence has
Well,
to say
I was
about,
gonna say, I was planning for him to pull together the expense for that and be at your July meeting, so he can present
yeah,
that.
and if
come up with
250 is the
schedule and-
number, I'm happy with
Right.
that. I just want to know,
Yeah.
and I don't want to charge what Laura's charges, because frankly, they're pulling in the beach crowd. It's right over there on number 9. I mean, it's a totally different scenario, so I don't want to see us go to 400 and lose potential tournaments, but I do think we need to at least be whole on this thing, especially if we're bringing people in to do extra work.
All right, so we're looking at a motion to do the fees as submitted, except for the change of the 3 or more, right, for $15
Yes, sir.
each.
And the.
So we're gonna include,
And the out of
the 3 or
county.
more, and we're gonna go up to 200 a day for now,
$250 out of town.
Out of account.
and 250 out of
Yeah,
town. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll do
For
that,
now.
and then we'll, come back and,
So somebody will need to make a motion to that.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. All right. Is that all the fee schedule?
we have the water fee schedule.
Water district?
And we, basically piggyback on the increases that the city of Laurinburg is doing. I got their fee schedule and these match that for, county water. And so, if you wanna take a look and.
They went up
approve that.
15, I know they went up 15% on city water. but
Yeah.
And
I'm
they
assuming
just,
that
you know,
rolls
they
to
just
us.
applied that across the board.
Boy, it's getting.
Well, I think, and I think that from reading what I was reading, that was part of their short-term, long-term plan.
Well, next year they got another 20%.
Yeah, they
20.
have like a, I wanna say like
So
a
do we-
5-year plan.
So do we adjust next year too as well?
We have to. We're
Right.
losing-
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
Yes.
The biggest one I see, you know, and again, this is all based on them, that tap fee is going to.
Wow.
How much
$2,800.
for tap? Would that affect
That
us,
did-
hey, would
that
that
did
affect this new?
No, because it's $100 tap fee if they get it widespread.
While the line.
That
Right.
tax fee did not
But if they
increase to
don't,
$10.
But if they don't, it's gonna be the $2,800.
No, if that hasn't changed, that's what it's been. They
It's
did
been
not
that.
go up on the tap fee.
Wow.
It's a lot of money to the whole.
But yeah, that it's
Well-
expensive to put in a meter.
I mean, it's not like we have
Yeah,
much,
you're right.
much choice. I mean, it's. This is,
I'll tell you what, is
we're,
that-
we're they're our only supplier. Well, I take that back. The airport is to some.
$2,800 to tap on to the well. It's $5,000.
But anyhow, so, we'll need approval for the fee schedule for just water district 1 and 2 for, this says fiscal year of 24-25, it means 25-26, right?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
It's got 24-25.
I'll get that correct.
Okay.
Golly.
Yeah, it's-
What's the, is there an impact to us with, I mean, does that tap fee kind of, are our surrounding counties charging that kind of tap
The
fee?
city sets those rates. Of course, you could change it, but the city sets them and we follow their schedule because they do the billing. You could say they run our water. And so we just follow their lead with that. Now, that being said, in the next couple of months, it is time for us to renegotiate our contract with the city and water services. And so there are some things that we will need to negotiate in that process.
I was just thinking, if I set up a modular home somewhere, if that was my home and I set it up somewhere, that's a huge percentage of my cost too.
That counts your septic tank and all that.
Yeah, I mean,
Still cheaper than drilling the well. Drilling the well is $5,000 a month.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so we have a motion to approve the water fee schedule for 25-26. Nobody wants to make a motion.
Well, I tell you,
I'll make a motion.
All right, we have a motion, we have a
Well,
second.
they better second.
kind of hold my nose. while I-
Yeah.
No, I didn't second that.
Yeah, I think.
I don't know.
It ain't my election time, I'll say it.
Okay, so, any other,
Thanks, Jim.
any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll move on. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right. Proposed resolution from,
Not the budget.
is it in here?
Are you going to that, or are you gonna do the budget next?
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped right over the budget then. Oh. That was the, yeah, so now we're gonna talk about 26 budget. We'll start that by opening the public forum or the public hearing at this time. Is there anyone that wishes to speak during the public hearing for the budget for 25-26? Seeing and hear none, I will close the public hearing and then we'll move to our discussion. I think it's the final number. Where did it go? 56,604,471. That's all in. I don't see a lot of different changes. This is gonna end up with how much fund balance coming out?
So this will have, 1 million in fund balance, and then we are rolling over the drug seizure money, so that would be the additional
Yeah, but
5
that's
million
just
sitting
taking
there,
care of
correct.
his. Yeah,
But but yes, just 1 million.
Right. Okay, so we'll leave that for the fund balance. That'll leave our fund balance where? Unrestricted fund balance, I should say.
So we would be right at our 16%.
Okay, so we're not.
We're not-
Okay.
we're not under that now.
In all fairness to Beth and April, I pushed a little bit on the local option sales tax because we were originally projecting about a $600,000 loss from this year. And I pushed it to say, I don't think we need to project a loss. And maybe if y'all guys disagree with that, then the $600,000 sales tax loss, equates to,
That's a ton of money.
that's a ton,
Yeah.
it's over $100 million in sales, and I don't think that's happening.
Right.
So, didn't mess with the rest of it, but that was the only one I thought was probably under projected. Change it back if you want to, but I mean, I don't, and it maybe ends up that I'm wrong. I've done this, 7 times now? And every time that number's been too low, I always complain and it came in higher than what it was, so.
COLA didn't change.
2%.
2%.
And you brought back progression, which means, staff throughout the year will get at least 3% increase.
Keyword being at least.
And then we took on that extra $1 million in costs for the medical.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So we have-
keep staff no out of pocket for their premium costs.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, this is where I think we hats off to our county manager and department heads for sharpening the pencil and operating as efficiently as possible to make this happen. Because I tell you, $1 million increase in your medical, that's huge. And if we're hit with that again next year, if we're not ready for it, we're gonna be in trouble. So
Well, hopefully, based on claims, next year won't be as bad, but there's a dependent on claims. And
yeah, well, hope is not a strategy.
I know,
And
but I mean, I'm just,
but I mean, we have to continue to just be really, and that's where I applaud the department heads and the county manager. Keep pressing. And, we have the grants manager now. We got to leverage more of that grant funding, get that infusion in here. And I think we're doing some positive things. We just got to keep it going. And I'm glad to hear we're at 15% on fund balance. I was worried we were gonna dip a lot lower, so. I know it's not easy.
Go ahead.
My plan is, and I think, or you will see because you're on all county emails, is to send an email out to all county employees, and you are included on that, to give them one message as to what's in the budget, especially for them.
Yeah.
Like the 2% progression insurance. I did that last year, and I'll kind of mimic that. So they all hear the same message, and they all know what, we got in the budget for them. And then, I send something to all the department heads that say, this is what your budget is, this is what you requested, this is what is in the budget, kind of like that. So try to keep the communication transparent and everybody on the same page as the budget gets passed.
Beth, where do we bring in, I see an expense for an ABC bottle tax, $9,000, but where do we bring in the money where does it show, what line is it under for the ABC?
For the ABC board profits, that is under unrestricted revenues.
Is that where it's restricted? Okay,
Yes.
and that's what most of that is, right?
Yes.
But why is there a separate bottle tax that we have to pay?
That is, actually the ABC, board pays that. They get a check every quarter
So it's a wash.
for that. So
Okay.
we receive it and then we send it
I
right
was
back
gonna
out.
say, I thought they paid the bottle tax.
So where is,
In case you didn't know, there's about 20,000 bottles a month now sold at the ABC store.
We got
A lot of liquor. That just counts little bottles too, but
so they ain't all from this county. I see other states.
So Tim, is our St. Andrews stuff in here?
because
How are we gonna deal with that?
that's what we talked about, because we can't budget it, because we don't know that it's happening.
Right,
So,
but knowing it's coming, what's kind of our
we'll
plan?
do a budget amendment for it, and it'll come off the fund balance. So, but that's 250, right? That's our cash commitment.
That's all it was.
Yeah.
Right.
But the in-kind commitment is still gonna cost
But
us.
that's gonna come out of different.
Yeah,
Enterprise.
yeah, I just think we need to see that. That's gonna, I got a feeling this won't be a 1 year thing.
No,
Well, again, that's one of those bridges that we'll have to cross.
Property might sell.
Yeah, the property may sell. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, there was a high roller, I'll put, that flew in to see the horse farm. You know, they fly in on $40 million bill streams to look at it, and they're
And then they make you 65% asking all.
they may, I don't know that he did, so.
Yeah.
But, I mean, but,
You didn't get that Learjet paying full price.
no, that's for sure. But, there has been a little bit of interest in that.
That's how you.
Speaking, and this is off topic, maybe I should do it afterwards. Did we get some equipment from St. Andrews?
We got bleachers, Lawrence got bleachers for Parks and Rec, and so, we got them moved over to our soccer fields, and now there's bleachers there, and that would be also for our football field. So he got those moved over, and we very much would like to see what sports equipment St. Andrews has. Lawrence is working on some, new sports for girls. We need to target girls in the county too, not just boys sports.
Another
And
outside.
like mats and stuff, so I'm trying to decide when is the right time.
Well, let
And who's the right person?
Move this to Ed.
Okay.
There's a UCC filed for all that stuff. A generic UCC file.
For all personal property.
Yes.
Wow.
So we need to be careful about this, or we're gonna end up. with
Well, and
property.
I wondered that too, how whoever handed over those bleachers to Lawrence and also to, like the John Blue committee did that.
Well, I saw the county truck out there one day. That's why I knew somebody was getting
But other
something.
than that, no, what we,
usually there's.
I've expressed interest, but we haven't gotten anything.
Well, the problem is this UCC. UCC's how I file a lien of something you own
Can't
that
touch
you don't have a title for or a deed.
Right.
Like that coffee cup, I can file a UCC for one blue cup for April and file it with the state. Then I have a lien on that, just like I would if I financed your car.
Yeah.
And there is a generic, all personal property UCC filed for St. Andrews, Weber, with the state. So we gotta be, we need.
So
Well, they don't
they
count.
may
They
give
don't
us
count.
something that has a lien against it,
There you go.
that the creditor could come back and
Right,
say,
that's my point, that the creditor may come back and
So that's
say,
why I said, we haven't asked for anything, we are interested, but I know it's not the right time.
Okay.
Things are set.
and I'm getting off on something here that we probably should get off on, but all that'll go away, yeah, so, I'm sorry, I just.
do we need to vote to approve this?
Yeah, we're gonna have to vote to approve the budget. Whoever makes that motion, please use the total down at the bottom there.
On page 2?
On the back of the front first page.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve a Scotland County budget for FY 25-26 in the amount of $56,604,471.
I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion? Dorothy, you got that good clear, right, for the amount and also, okay? Without any other discussion, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right. If y'all wanna talk anymore about St. Andrews, but I just, that was something I meant to ask you earlier, because I saw our truck out there, somebody was out there.
Well, that means somebody's on camera.
Well, they were out there in the soccer field picking up something. I didn't see what they were getting, but they had the trailer behind the truck, so I knew they were out there picking up something. We just gotta be real careful with that.
I agree, and, I'm not sure who at St. Andrews, we clearly can't go take anything they have. Somebody there authorized that, so.
Yeah. I would keep it close at hand, because somebody comes and complains about it, especially about if this state thing doesn't go through.
That's right.
They're gonna come back.
They wanna get it back.
Kim, I was approached by,
Yes, sir.
a citizen that was inquiring about fields, everything out there at St. Andrews for us, like, when we were talking about our parks and everything, like, extra park, who would they need to contact if they can contact anybody right now? Like, they want to utilize that park for practice, utilize the field.
They would have to contact Weber, because it's, I'm sure they don't even have it insured now.
That's what I was gonna say from a
Are you talking
liability.
about the softball field or football field?
Both of them.
But that's Weber's there. So,
Yeah. Weber actually owns that
yeah,
football
the
field.
football field and the girls'
So
softball.
Who's the caretaker they left?
Mother Nature.
Is there a caretaker?
No, there's a guy that's going back and back. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, maybe start with Glenn, because, I think they left one or two people behind that are supposed
I
to,
think they got security out there and then,
they would know who.
Okay. I just told him, I said, I'd bring it up at the meeting.
if you want his number, Trent, I'd be glad to give it to you.
Well,
I don't want the headache, but he just asked me, well, hey, what about the field? I said, I don't know. I asked a question.
Right now, the volunteers are taking care of what grass mowing is getting done. But I don't know how long that'll last. It's got a lot of grass.
That's about being, because it's me.
Yeah, there's a lot
I've
of
been down there
grass
and mowed
out
for a
If
week.
they don't have insurance, I imagine they're not gonna let people.
Yeah.
That'd be a huge
You
risk.
been good?
Yeah, I've had a tractor down there actually 2 weeks ago.
Get some goats and put out there.
Mother Nature take care.
Anything else, Tim?
Is there anything,
yes, we have a
anybody else?
resolution that we need to discuss.
Oh, God.
Or decide.
I'm just gonna skip over. I had it marked, that's why. So when I skip it, go ahead. I'm sorry, Beth.
So, our auditors sent out, I guess, an email about a week and a half ago, kind of getting everybody prepared for the upcoming audit. And they're recommending that we have a resolution or some kind of policy in place for our subscription-based IT arrangements. And if we do not have this in place, then every single subscription we have, whether it's Microsoft Office, Adobe, if it's $5, I've got to book it and we've got to make the proper adjustments and all that at year end. So, to get around that, if we have a policy or resolution in place with a threshold, we hit anything over the threshold, then I go in, book the entries that have to be made, and we're, legal.
I saw this the other day, I don't have it in front of me, so I'm reading it. But I took this as being more of a policy issue than just a resolution.
We could turn it into a policy, clearly,
we
as
had
part
it
of our
for
finance
IT.
policies.
Yeah. Give me that, what,
I was thinking maybe even the IT policy.
I mean, we could put it.
wherever it needs to go.
Yeah, wherever it needs
And
to
it
go.
can honestly go in both,
Yeah.
if we really want it.
Yeah.
So
Because
do
I
you
think
want
the
us,
idea is that you understand what you're paying for.
right, so do you want us to flush this out into policy with much of the same language really? And, bring it to you in July? And what,
That
what's
probably
2
would be,
weeks?
I
A week and a half or
prefer,
so?
because I just see that being more of a policy thing. Resolution, well, it would be good for however long, but we know the policy is gonna be good for however long.
Can we agree on the threshold with the understanding of coming back to the policy so that
Yeah, we don't have a
This-
problem with the
okay.
amounts
What's
and all
the
that stuff.
threshold?
5,000?
5,000. So I don't, that part ain't the problem, it's just the I just took it more as a policy thing, but, I mean, I might be wrong. Somebody else may be.
You may
Can
not
I
need
at least get
resolution.
approval of the threshold with, so that I don't have to go back and put these minor items in this year's audit?
I'd make
Do you need
a
to-
motion
I
that,
would like it reflected in the minutes in case I'm
Yeah.
asked for the documentation.
I'll make a motion that we increase the threshold to $5,000
That we establish it at
or
5,000.
establish a $5,000 threshold for IT licenses,
Subscription.
subscription
Subscription-based IT arrangements.
annually.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second? We have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, with that, I'll ask if there's any more final comments. All right, so seeing none, we will adjourn our meeting until July the 2nd. Not this coming Tuesday, the next meeting.
That's July.
Seven.
What did I say?
Second.
Oh, 7th.
Yeah, wait a minute.
What, July 2nd? With that,
We were talking about that earlier today.
we will stand adjourned. Thank you all.
You want me to email you?
My man.